What if the most expensive coin you will ever own is already in your possession? And you don't even know it? La Coins World Washington $quarter coin super right now, somewhere in America, a quarter is sitting in a forgotten coin jar, buried in a dresser drawer, tucked away in an old coffee can, or mixed into loose change that someone plans to spend tomorrow. To most people, it's worth 25 cents. To the right collector, however, that same coin could represent a life-changing discovery. Today, we're uncovering one of the most fascinating mysteries in modern numismatics, the 1965 Washington quarter, a coin born during one of the most dramatic transitions in United States mint history, a coin surrounded by stories of rare errors, hidden varieties, and extraordinary values that continue to capture the attention of collectors across the nation. And here's the frightening part: every day, people spend potentially valuable coins without ever looking at them. That's the difference between a spender and a collector. The spender sees 25 cents. The collector sees possibility. The spender buys a cup of coffee. The collector searches for hidden wealth. And when it comes to the 1965 Washington quarter, that difference in mindset could mean the difference between ordinary change and a coin worth hundreds of thousands of dollars. The year 1965 marked the turning point in American coinage. The United States was facing a coin shortage unlike anything seen before. Silver prices were rising rapidly. Americans were hoarding coins. Collectors were pulling silver pieces from circulation. The government needed a solution. The answer came through the Coinage Act of 1965. For the first time in decades, Washington quarters would no longer be struck primarily in silver. Instead, the mint introduced a copper-nickel-clad composition that would fundamentally change American coinage forever. But during periods of transition, mistakes happen, and sometimes those mistakes become legends. As production accelerated, millions upon millions of quarters flowed through minting facilities. The priority was speed. The priority was quantity. Yet hidden among those countless coins were a handful of pieces that appeared different, strange, unusual, rare. And today, those anomalies continue to fuel intense collector demand. Before we go any further, take a quick mental inventory. Do you have a coin jar somewhere in your house? An old collection inherited from a parent or grandparent? A box of loose change in the garage? If the answer is yes, you may want to remember where it is, because what we're about to discuss has motivated thousands of collectors to re-examine their quarters. One of the most sought-after characteristics associated with certain 1965 Washington quarters is doubling. To the average person, the coin may appear completely normal, but under magnification, collectors sometimes discover double lettering, duplicated design elements, or unusual impressions within the portrait. These doubled features can occur during die creation and often become highly desirable among specialists. The reason is simple: not all doubling is created equal. Some examples are subtle, others are dramatic enough to be visible without advanced equipment. When rarity combines with strong visual impact, values can increase substantially. But doubling is only the beginning. Another category attracting enormous interest involves die cracks. As minting dies strike coin blanks thousands of times, immense pressure gradually weakens the metal. Eventually, fractures can form. When that happens, coins may display raised lines extending across portions of the design. Minor die cracks are relatively common throughout numismatics. Major examples are a different story. Some become so dramatic that they create unique visual signatures, making individual coins instantly recognizable to advanced collectors. And then there are off-center strikes. Imagine a quarter entering the press slightly misaligned. Instead of receiving a perfectly centered design, part of the image shifts toward one edge. The result is a striking visual error that immediately attracts attention. The greater the displacement while retaining important details like the date, the more desirable the coin often becomes. Now here's something interesting. Many people assume rare coins look obviously valuable. They imagine gold coins, ancient treasure, something dramatic. In reality, some of the most valuable discoveries in modern numismatics look completely ordinary at first glance. That's exactly why they remain hidden. Attention reset. When was the last time you actually inspected the quarters in your wallet? Not counted them, inspected them. For most people, The answer is probably never. And that's precisely why remarkable discoveries continue to happen. The story of the 1965 quarter becomes even more intriguing when we examine one of the most discussed possibilities in the collecting community. During the transition away from silver coinage, the mint handled multiple compositions simultaneously. This unusual environment created opportunities for accidental production anomalies. Among the most famous are reports of 1965 quarters struck on silver plan case intended for earlier issues. These transitional era coins have achieved legendary status. Imagine discovering a quarter dated 1965 that somehow possesses the silver composition associated with previous years. The rarity alone would make collectors take notice. The historical significance would elevate interest even further, and when historical importance intersects with extreme scarcity, prices can become extraordinary. This is one reason the 1965 quarter remains a favorite subject among treasure hunters. It represents a perfect storm of factors: historical transition, massive production, potential minting anomalies, strong collector demand, and the enduring possibility that additional rare examples may still be undiscovered. Attention reset. Seriously, if you have a jar of change nearby, don't check it yet. Finish the video first. But after we're done, you may find yourself looking at quarters very differently. Now let's talk about condition. Condition is often the dividing line between a valuable coin and an extraordinary coin. A rare error in heavily circulated condition may command attention. The same coin preserved in exceptional condition can become a centerpiece worthy of fierce-bidding competition. Professional grading services evaluate numerous factors: surface preservation, luster, strike quality, eye appeal, overall originality. The difference between grades can dramatically impact value. In some cases, a single grade point separates a four-figure coin from a five-figure coin. That's why advanced collectors often focus intensely on preservation. They understand that rarity alone isn't always enough. The market rewards excellence, and excellence commands premiums. This brings us to one of the most fascinating aspects of the 1965 quarter. Some collectors describe certain elite examples as ghost coins. Why? Because they seem to vanish. Unlike more common collectibles that appear regularly at shows and auctions, ghost coins often disappear into private collections for years, sometimes decades. A rare example emerges. Collectors compete aggressively. The coin sells, then it vanishes from public view. Months pass, years pass, sometimes an entire generation passes before another comparable specimen appears. That scarcity creates anticipation, and anticipation creates demand. The less often a coin appears, the more attention it receives when it finally returns to the market. It's basic economics: limited supply, persistent demand, rising competition. Attention reset. Here's a funny thought. Imagine using a potentially six-figure coin to buy a soda somewhere, sometime. That has probably happened, and that's enough to make any collector nervous. The modern market for elite era coins has become increasingly sophisticated. Auction houses attract global participation. Online bidding allows collectors from around the world to compete instantly. High-quality examples receive extensive publicity. Population reports are monitored closely, and whenever a major rarity surfaces, excitement spreads rapidly through the numismatic community. This growing visibility has encouraged more people to search their collections. More people are checking inherited coin albums. More people are opening forgotten safes. More people are examining coins they once ignored. Why? Because history has repeatedly proven that remarkable discoveries still happen. Not in movies, not in legends, in real life. And that possibility keeps the hunt alive. Now let's discuss the figure that captures everyone's attention, the number that fuels headlines, the number that inspires collectors to examine every quarter they encounter. Market discussions surrounding elite examples, extraordinary errors, exceptional preservation, and unique provenance have occasionally reached astonishing levels. Among the highest speculative valuations often associated with the most remarkable examples is a figure approaching $791,000. Take a moment and think about that. A coin originally intended for everyday commerce. A coin that millions of people handled without a second thought. A coin worth 25 cents by denomination. Yet under the right circumstances, potentially connected to values that rival luxury real estate. That's the power of rarity. That's the power of collector demand. And that's the power of knowledge. Of course, it's important to understand a critical reality. The overwhelming majority of 1965 quarters are not worth extraordinary sums. Most remain common circulation pieces. The value comes from specific characteristics, specific errors, specific conditions, specific combinations of factors that separate ordinary coins from elite rarities. But that's exactly what makes the search exciting. Every collector understands the same truth. The next discovery hasn't been found until someone looks, and the person who finds it is usually the person willing to pay attention when everyone else walks away. As physical cash becomes less common in an increasingly digital world, many collectors believe hidden opportunities may become even harder to identify. Fewer people inspect coins. Fewer people study minting errors. Fewer people understand the subtle details that create value. Yet rare coins continue to exist, and scarcity never loses its importance. In fact, scarcity often becomes more significant over time. That's why so many experienced collectors remain optimistic about the future of rare coin collecting. The supply remains finite, interest remains strong, and new collectors continue entering the market every year. So what should you do next? Start paying attention. Examine your quarters. Learn the characteristics of valuable varieties. Study minting errors. Review old collections. And most importantly, never assume that every coin is ordinary simply because it looks ordinary. Because hidden wealth rarely announces itself. It hides quietly in plain sight, waiting for someone knowledgeable enough to recognize it. The 1965 Washington quarter represents more than a piece of metal. It represents opportunity. It represents history. It represents the possibility that extraordinary value can exist where nobody expects it. And perhaps somewhere tonight, sitting in a forgotten jar of change, one of these remarkable coins is still waiting to be discovered. If that happens, the next great coin story might not belong to someone else. It might belong to you. And if you think the 1965 quarter is incredible, wait until you hear about the next ultra-rare coin we're investigating. Its origin remains one of the greatest mysteries in American numismatics. Its survival numbers are shockingly low, and one authenticated example reportedly sparked a bidding war that stunned even veteran collectors. You won't want to miss that story. Have you ever wondered if a coin sitting in your pocket, forgotten in a drawer, or buried at the bottom of an old coin jar could be worth more than a luxury mansion? It sounds impossible, yet every year, ordinary Americans unknowingly spend coins that collectors would pay fortunes to own. And today, we're diving into one of the most mysterious and potentially valuable modern coins ever discussed among collectors of the 1979 D-Mint Mark Monticello Thomas Washington $quarter coin, a coin surrounded by controversy, whispers of rare minting anomalies, and reports of values reaching into the hundreds of thousands of dollars. Before you dismiss this as another coin story, consider this: somewhere, someone may have already spent one of these coins for 25 cents. The question is, will you make the same mistake? Most people see pocket change as exactly that, a change. Collectors see something entirely different. They see history. They see rarity. They see hidden wealth. Every day, millions of quarters pass through cash registers, vending machines, and coffee shop counters without a second glance. But what if one of those quarters carried a tiny detail capable of transforming its value from a few cents to hundreds of thousands of dollars? That's the difference between a spender and a collector. One sees money leaving their pocket, the other sees opportunity entering their future. The story begins in the late 1970s, a period when the United States Mint was producing enormous quantities of coinage to satisfy growing demand. Denver, identified by its famous D-Mint mark, struck millions of coins each year. Under normal circumstances, these coins were destined for circulation, where they would become part of everyday commerce. But occasionally, something unusual happened inside the minting process. A tiny mistake, a mechanical anomaly, a die defect, a production irregularity, the kinds of errors that transform ordinary coins into legendary collectibles. Now here's where things become fascinating. Certain examples associated with the 1979 D issue have reportedly surfaced with unusual characteristics that continue to spark debate among advanced numismatists. Some specimens have shown dramatic die cracks, off-center strikes, double design elements, and unusual mint mark placements. Others exhibit what collectors describe as ghost-like characteristics, the coins that seem to appear briefly in private collections before disappearing into vaults, auctions, or long-term holdings. Think about that for a moment. A coin so elusive that even seasoned collectors may spend decades searching for a verified example. Before we continue, take 10 seconds and think about where your loose change is right now. Is there a coin jar in your kitchen? A box in the garage? An old piggy bank from years ago? If so, you may want to check it after this video, because history has shown that remarkable discoveries often happen in the most ordinary places. One of the most discussed characteristics linked to rare 1979 D quarters involves doubling. To the untrained eye, the coin appears perfectly normal, but under magnification, collectors may notice duplicated design features. Letters may appear slightly doubled. Portions of the portrait may show overlapping impressions. Certain details can seem as though they were struck twice. These varieties are often created during the die manufacturing process and can become highly desirable when combined with low survival numbers. Another feature generating significant interest is the presence of dramatic die cracks. These occur when a working die begins to fracture under the immense pressure of repeated strikes. The resulting coins display raised lines crossing portions of the design. While minor cracks are relatively common, major examples can create spectacular visual effects that attract advanced collectors willing to pay substantial premiums. Then there are off-center strikes. Imagine a coin blank entering the press slightly out of position. Instead of receiving a perfectly centered image, the design is shifted, leaving part of the blank unstruck. Depending on the degree of displacement and the visibility of the date and mint mark, values can increase dramatically. Some of the most sought-after mint errors in American numismatics are off-center strikes because no two examples are exactly alike. Here's a question. How many times have you looked at a quarter and immediately spent it without checking the details? Probably hundreds, maybe thousands. That's exactly why these treasures continue to hide in plain sight. The market for rare error coins operates differently from traditional collecting categories. In many cases, value is driven by a combination of rarity, condition, eye appeal, certification, and collector demand. Remove just one of those factors, and the value can drop significantly. But when all five align perfectly, extraordinary prices become possible. Condition is especially important. A rare or coin in heavily worn condition may still command attention. However, a near-perfect example preserved for decades can become the centerpiece of a major collection. Professional grading services evaluate factors such as strike quality, surface preservation, luster, and overall eye appeal. A difference of just one grade point can sometimes mean thousands or even tens of thousands of dollars in value. Now let's talk about why some collectors refer to this coin as a ghost in the market. Most valuable coins develop predictable market histories. Auction records appear regularly. Public sales establish benchmarks. Collectors know approximately how many examples exist. But ghost coins are different. They surface unexpectedly. They disappear into private collections. They generate rumors and speculation. Their scarcity creates uncertainty, and uncertainty often fuels demand. Imagine attending an auction where several determined collectors are competing for a coin that may not appear publicly again for years. The bidding escalates. Rational calculations begin to fade. Emotion enters the room. Suddenly, a coin originally worth 25 cents is commanding astonishing sums because multiple buyers understand the same reality. Opportunities like this are rare. Attention reset. Seriously, if you have an old coin collection inherited from parents or grandparents, make a mental note to examine it later today. Many valuable discoveries occur when families finally open boxes that haven't been touched in decades. The psychology behind rare coin collecting is powerful. Coins connect us to history, craftsmanship, and the possibility of unexpected wealth. Every collector remembers the excitement of finding a rare date, a hidden variety, or an overlooked terror. That thrill is one reason the hobby continues attracting new participants year after year. As demand increases, so does competition. Modern collectors have access to online marketplaces, grading populations, auction archives, and global networks of buyers. Information travels faster than ever before. When a particularly rare variety gains attention, interest can spread across the collecting community almost overnight. This brings us to the numbers that have captured so much attention. Reports and market speculation surrounding exceptional examples have fueled discussions of values reaching extraordinary levels. In the world of elite numismatics, six-figure and even seven-figure prices are not unheard of when a coin possesses a unique combination of rarity, provenance, condition, and collector demand. The figure often mentioned in connection with top-tier examples approaches an eye-watering $781,000. Think about that, a quarter, 25 cents, potentially connected to a valuation discussed in the same financial territory as luxury homes, investment portfolios, and successful businesses. Of course, not every 1979 D quarter is valuable. In fact, most are worth only face value. That's an important reality. The value comes from specific characteristics, rarer combinations, and exceptional preservation. Yet that distinction is precisely what makes the hunt so compelling. The next valuable coin doesn't announce itself. It waits quietly until someone recognizes what others missed. And here's the irony. The people most likely to overlook these treasures are often the ones handling coins every day. Cashiers, retail workers, consumers, individuals who assume all quarters are identical. Collectors understand that tiny differences can create enormous value gaps. As we move deeper into an era of digital payments, physical coins are becoming less common in everyday transactions. That shift may create an unexpected effect. Fewer people examine coins closely. Fewer people search for varieties and errors. Yet the surviving population of rare pieces doesn't increase. Scarcity remains. Demand remains. And when demand meets scarcity, prices tend to attract attention. Imagine discovering one of these rarer coins tomorrow. What would you do? Sell it immediately? Hold it as an investment? Submit it for professional grading? Those are the kinds of decisions collectors dream about making. Attention reset. Go ahead and ask yourself one simple question. When was the last time you actually inspected the quarters in your wallet? Not counted them, inspected them. The answer for most people is probably never. That simple habit could be the difference between spending a treasure and preserving it. As we reach the end of this story, the lesson becomes clear. Hidden wealth doesn't always arrive in obvious forms. Sometimes it hides in ordinary places. A forgotten coin jar, a family collection, a roll of quarters from the bank. The individuals who discover remarkable coins are rarely the luckiest people. More often, they're the people who pay attention when everyone else looks away. The 1979 D mint marked Monticello Thomas Washington $quarter coin continues to fascinate collectors because it represents more than metal. It represents possibility. The possibility that value can exist where nobody expects it. The possibility that knowledge can reveal opportunities invisible to others. And perhaps most importantly, the possibility that the next extraordinary discovery could already be sitting within reach. So before you spend your next quarter, take a closer look. Examine the date, check the mint mark, search for unusual doubling, die cracks, strike anomalies, or anything that seems different. Because in the world of rare coins, the smallest detail can make the biggest difference. And if this story surprised you, stay tuned. In our next episode, we're uncovering another ultra-rare American coin that many experts believe is still hiding in circulation today. Its discovery story is even more unbelievable, its rarity is even more mysterious, and the potential value has left seasoned collectors speechless. You won't want to miss what comes next.